everybody gotta do? What?
It's your boy Japanese Tutor, and welcome to another Bishop Endgame lesson. So today, this is a game from Miles versus Jinjikashvili, and where Jinjikashvili is black, and it's white to move here. And we're picking off from last time, where the bishop is just superior to the knight, and we're looking at fixing the pawns first. Okay. So I'm just going to read from the text and then go on from there. If you want the book, it's always down below. It's in the link. It's the Dvoretsky's Endgame Manual. So, whereas in the preceding example, Black's king was forced to defend its pawns, here this role is played by the knight in order to let his king break into the enemy camp. White uses the standard techniques of widening the beachhead and zugzwang. Okay, so we're gonna play g4 here. G4 is actually an amazing move. G4, and then you have to, so you don't take with the king. Instead, you just take, boom, F takes G, King G6. Okay, saying, hey, I'm gonna go over here. This is covered basically. King G6, King G3, King G5. Also, if they play F5, G captures, E captures, King F4 is just winning. Because let's say they take here, and now, hello, I'm gonna come inside like that. Right, so not that, but instead King G5. And on King G5, King F3. Just saying, hey, I'm gonna see if I can come over here, but also make you, you know, fix your pawns. Like, tell me where you want them. King to H6, and E5 doesn't help here as well. So on E5, the book move is G3, King G6, King H4, King H6, Bishop to D8. G6, G5. F captures G. Bishop captures G. And it's just winning for black. I mean, for white. With the idea of here, and you can't defend this pawn, and you can't defend this pawn at the same time. And the king is out of squares, and the knight really can't move. Right, so the idea also, if F5 here. So let's say when you push E5, F5, E captures, King H5, and if E4, G6 just wins, because we can always stop the pawn via this. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so E5 doesn't work. So let's say, bam, 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 King H6. Right, King H6, King F4, King G6, E5, F captures E, Bishop captures, King F7. So now we're fixing the pawns, and now we also have a threat, and we have play on both sides of the board, which is important for the bishop to have play on both sides of the board. So you're playing on the queen side, on the king side, and you're also playing on the queen side, and the knight's tied to the defense of the pawns. So after E5 takes, King F7, Bishop C7 attacking the pawn again, King F6, G5, King F7, and then King G4, King G6, and then Bishop to D6. And this is zugzwang. The knight is out of squares. Right? The knight cannot go anywhere. If E5, then just Bishop C7, and again, the knight is out of squares because he can't move because we have to defend the pawn. Okay, so they have to make way, and yeah, just this is a resignable position. King h5 is just winning. Again, no moves. That's a king h8, g7, and yeah, this is winning. So yeah, here it's at black resign. He is in zugzwang, and I'll show you the position of when he's in zugzwang. After bishop d6, because just the knight can't move anywhere. There are no good moves. He has to concede. Yep. So nice, really nice way. Let's go over it again. So this is really like just technical. Like, okay, I have a bishop, I have pawns on both sides of the board. How should we go about this? And g4 is just an important move, and taking with the f pawn, saying, hey, I'm creating threats. Now if we would have took with the king, I don't know, drawish. Here, you know, let's just play it out. Right, you can't play e5 because of what we mentioned. We're just going to come back around. And again, the knight's short on squares. It has to stay defending this pawn. I would like to say that this is a very clean textbook win. And just, yeah, bishop d6. GG. Yeah, definitely the classic bishop domination of the night. Okay, so we're going to go into the other game. But first, this is a tragic comedy, and for those of you who don't know what a tragic comedy is, it's basically where they take a really strong players, in this case us, Simslov, and he just missed a win or missed an idea, and it's basically bringing those GMs back down to the mortal level, saying, hey, they can make mistakes too, and it's kind of nice to see. Because sometimes they're like, oh, they're GM, they just know every single move. But yeah, it's hard. Chess is very hard, especially the end game, because it's at the end of the game. So imagine playing a game for 3 hours and then having to think even more than you had to previously. So it's kind of cool. All right, so let's just I'm going to set up that position for you guys. Okay, here. Yeah, and these are like one of the most common end games, like the bishop versus knight end games. So if you get good at this, you can identify in the middle game, like, hey, I have a winning bishop versus knight end game, and let's just go into that. And that's the reason that, you know, end game study is so important, because, you know, once you're in the middle game, you can say, oh, I understand this idea, I understand like where I can get to, and then you can convert your advantage or draw. Like if they're winning, just be like, okay, I know that this is a draw, let's go for that. So pretty cool. Okay, so this is in 1966 in USSR. So white wins using exactly the same move and the same technique as before, using h4. h4, it is vital to fix the enemy pawn on the vulnerable h5 square, and this is right from the text. In order to tie one of black's pieces to its defense, or in some lines to create a dangerous passed h pawn. In the game, white made a mistake. White played king d5. Here, do that again. White played king d5, and after h4, very strong move, this position is now a draw. So fixing the enemy pawns is key in this position. If white sends his king after the a7 pawn, black squeezes into the corner with king c7, and on g2 g3, black exchanges pawns and easily blockades the passed g pawn, which results the passed G pawn, which results something. Besides, he only needs to give up his knight for it, and then bring his king to B8 and the elementary fortress already known to us to secure the draw. Okay, so let's see what they play. So bishop E2, king F8. Wait, what? Oh, knight F8. Sorry, I was like king F8. What? King E4, king G5, D5, king F6, bishop to G4, knight G6, and the game ended in a draw. So kind of cool. Kind of cool that that little nuance just cost him the game. So yeah, you're back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Are you gonna look at the games when black pawns are on opposite color squares? We've done that in previous lessons. So I'll give you the playlist after. And thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. All right, so let's go into the next one. And actually, this is called the Pass Pawn, and this is a game from Spassky Fisher in Santa Monica. So let's go review that. So I'm just gonna set up the board before I read from the text. And then let's get this here, and then pawns here, here, and here. And then there's a bishop. Okay, great. I think that's perfect. And it's black to move. So we can flip the board. Bam, load. Okay, so I'm just gonna read from the text. And this is called the pass pawn. The presence of a pass pawn on the board as a rule favors the side with the bishop. The bishop is a wide-ranging piece able to both support its own pawns while simultaneously dealing with enemies, whereas the knight generally succeeds in acting only upon a narrow segment of the board. If it succeeds, let's say, in blockading the pass pawn on one wing, it cannot successfully involve itself in the fray on the opposite wing. So basically what it's saying is your knight cannot play on both sides of the board. If the pawns are on one side, then it favors the knight. If pawns are on both sides, it favors the bishop. And that's generally the rule. A few endings we have examined already illustrated the difficulties faced by the knight when battling against a passed pawn. Let's analyze some more examples of this theme. Okay, so black to move. White would certainly love to play g2 to g4, for instance, in reply to knight d6. Tying one of the enemy pieces to the king side. Then the king would move over to the queen side and then attack black's pawn. The most stubborn line, most suggested, was knight h6. And if king f4, then knight f7, g4, g5. So very, very nice line. But let's see what Fisher chooses here. Fisher's choice makes things considerably easier for white. Since it gives him a passed pawn without even having to exchange pawns for it. Let's see. So his move is just g5, and then they just play h5. Knight h6, king to d3, king to e5, bishop to a8, king d6, king c4, g4, a4. Black's king can only defend one of the two queenside pawns. Seeing that the a7 pawn is doomed, Spassky does not hurry to attack it, preferring to strengthen his position maximally first. So kind of cool idea of saying, hey, I'm gonna win that pawn no matter what. I don't care. let me just keep strengthening my position, and then I'll go in. So knight g8, a5, knight h6, bishop to e4, g3, king to b5, knight to g8, bishop to b1, just preventing everything. Bam, bam. Preventing this, supporting here if the knight ever moves. g8, knight h6, king a6, king c6, bishop to a2. Very, very nice idea. Where's the knight going? And we can also trap the knight as well here. So very, very nice move. And black resigned here because let's say after, let's just make a move here. Just king captures a7 wins. Also bishop e6 is monster, saying, hey, if you don't go back here, gonna be some problems. So like knight h6, then king captures a here. If you try to say, hey, this is a draw because your king won't get out, it won't be, because our bishop covers these two squares. And yeah, so let's say like c4, bishop captures c4, something happens. Let's say we can't move his king here, bishop b3, back. The knight can't move anymore, the king has to move. If king to d6, then just king moves and we make a queen. So easy endgame. If the king doesn't move, let's say, I don't know, the king moves here, then king b8 wins. So yeah, easy game. Just make the king go to zigzag. Wow, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Yep. I think if I go left the pawn, black can sack the knight for the pawn at some point with the king. Oh, we don't even push it. Just, I mean, we just leave it there. Hey, what's up, Braden? Not sure without the board in front of me. Devoretsky probably covers it in much detail. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, really bad case of zugzwang. So you really want to focus on these kind of examples, and just if you have the bishop versus the knight in these endgames and you're not playing blitz on like chess.com, then I recommend you that you just take your time and really analyze what is your bishop doing. Are there pawns on both sides of the board? How can you widen the beachhead? How can you attack both sides? Usually in chess, one weakness is not enough and you need two weaknesses. Right, so you want to make a weakness or create a weakness if you can create a weakness here, then make another weakness on another side of the board if this weakness is already defended well. Bam, now they have to bring their forces over here. Now if that was enough, then you continue on over on that side. If it isn't enough, then you come back to that side and said, hey, your forces are spread thin and you can't go back. Oh yeah. All right, and then yeah, just black just resigned here. So Fischer resigned. So Fischer did lose games. Yeah, Braden, what's up? All right, and let's go for another example. So, bam. And it is white to move, so I'm just gonna flip the board around. And then a bishop. And the king. Okay, great. It is white to move here. And you know what's funny is that on a lot of these endgame positions, if you put into an engine, sometimes they just don't understand the nuances. So it's kind of cool where you know, us as humans study it and we're like, okay, we can come up with the best moves, and but sometimes a computer's not trained to think like that. Tactically, yeah, of course, calculate 1,000 move mate, but in these kind of positions, yeah. So the following sharp endgames features an interesting, though not hopefully error-free struggle. Okay, so who stands better? So we have to ask ourselves. The black a pawn could become very dangerous, while white will soon create a passed kingside pawn. In such sharp positions, the bishop is usually stronger than the knight, which is why Peristine didn't go in for the drawing line. The drawing line is just to play h5. So I'll show you the drawing line here. So h5, g8, king captures h, knight to e3, g4, a3, and king to h6, knight to c2, king captures h7, knight captures a1, g5, a2, knight somewhere, g6, and yeah, it's a draw because in view of, and we're gonna, I queen with a check, so here I queen with a check, we both have queens, it's a draw. Okay, so that's a drawing line. So instead of that, he played here to try to create some chances for himself. So king h6, knight to e3, g4, and then a3 here is dubious. He had to play the accurate knight to g2. And then after h5, gh, maybe gh, h5, gh, maybe king takes. But it leads to a draw. Black hopes for more and does indeed achieve it, but only as a result of errors on the part of his opponent. So black has a lot of tricks here. Okay, so that's the line he should have played, but instead he played a3, just thinking about the other line. It's very important in endgames, like when you calculate one line and you're like, okay, that's winning, but then they play, you have to like see if they play a different move. You have to reevaluate the position, because even though it seems identical to the same line that you just calculated, it has different properties, and that has messed me up in tournament play. So just, yeah, just make sure to check everything out. So yeah, king captures a7, h7, knight c2, the bishop can find no square on the long diagonal, and bishop f6 loses to the interference move, knight d4, and bishop c3 is met by king c4. All that's left to hope for is his pawns. The strongest move here is g5. Okay, and after g5, captures h5, a2, takes knight c2, g7, queen, queen. Black loses his knight. For example, if king d6, queen g6 check, and we pick up the knight. And we also have two pawns. So yeah. So this chapter is actually devoted to the theory of queen endgames. Yeah. Oh, so in a future chapter that we're gonna go is gonna be devoted to queen endgames, and we'll probably go back to this position. But this is not the scope of this lesson, so we're just gonna skip past that. So let's go back. Right. So instead of playing this, bam, bam, 90. At the beginning position, right? Okay, yeah. So they played instead. So instead of playing to knight c2, king captures a7. Yeah, so they played h5, and this is just normal, you know, like, yeah. So g captures h5. g5 question mark. Knight to e3, not capturing the bishop. Now it's black who wins this position. So on g6, knight to f5. The knight will sacrifice itself for the g pawn, and the bishop cannot stop both passed pawns. Usually there's a small little trick, and I'm sorry about the New York City noise. There's a small trick to know if your pawn can queen, if a bishop's defending it. If the pawns are more than 4 files away from each other, it's usually a win because the bishop can't stop both of them. Okay, and bam. So king g6, h4, king f6, king to d6, g6, and again, I'm sorry for the noise. g6, knight d5, king f7, e7, g7, and then knight f5 here is a mistake. h3 would have reached the goal a lot more simply. g8 equals knight. So you don't have the knight fork because we have a knight. h3, knight f6. Check and playing, sorry, here, not there. Wow, how many evidences are gonna go past? Again, the city life. So f6, knight f6, h2, knight e4, knight king d5, knight f2, knight to d4, f4, knight to c2, f5. There's nothing else. Captures. King e7, knight to b3, f6, knight to d4, and in view of this, he resigned. Yeah, so that's pretty good. Wow. Though this is a tough endgame for experienced players, Dabrowski's endgame menu is super tough. Yeah, definitely. So what is it, Chess Masters and Training Bar? Oh, that's just a follow bar. So if you follow, you become part of that. Oh, take care. Good night. Nice. So we had some trolling in the chat. Some trolling in the chat. And that's it for the next one. For this one, we have a lot of more interesting ones, like a more active king positions in the next one. So stay tuned for that one. Thank you for participating in this one, and I really appreciate you taking the time to actually improve your chess. If you think that this might help somebody, or you know that somebody needs help in their Bishop Endgames, send it to them, share it. I would really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Most likely the upload is going to be tomorrow, so take care. Yeah, bye.